I'll tell you one thing. Things are definitely not going to turn out good for this stormtrooper. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org with some bombshell news information coming from Tanzania. And of course, also Project Veritas that we will be getting into in this video. While of course uncovering all the other legitimate fake news, propaganda, and disinformation out there right now that you need to know about. Just jumping right into it, we of course have a brand new video from Project Veritas that, according to them, a whistleblower came forward accusing CBS News of faking and staging fake sickness testing lines with fake patients because allegedly from this anonymous source / whistleblower, CBS News wanted more people in line for their video shoot. Mainstream media faking the news. Who would have thought that they're capable of such lies? Why? But YouTube told me to trust the mainstream media and that the professional, authoritative sources would never lie. And again, this is the quote, same authoritative news organizations, as YouTube calls them, that used footage from Italy reporting as if it was a hospital in New York when it clearly was not. And we have to understand, big media organizations do this a lot. ABC was even recently caught using footage from a Kentucky shooting range, which they said was the Turkish government attacking the Kurds, which they wanted the United States military to desperately get involved in, so they definitely exaggerated that situation. This situation being exaggerated should leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and whether they did it because of laziness or just incompetence, or some people would say criminality, regardless of that, there should be another lesson why you shouldn't trust mainstream media. You should always do your own fact checking. And when YouTube announces that they're going to be deleting, censoring, demonetizing, and destroying independent media in favor of these guys, these should raise a lot of red flags, and these stories need to be forefront on YouTube since, again, we and many other people have been punished by their illegitimate moves promoting the mainstream media that is creating a lot of damage to everyone by running these types of fake news stories. Again, and they are wrong a lot. Just last week, all the news organizations were telling you that Kim Jong-un was dead. Meanwhile, we, as an independent media organization, were reminding you that he does have many lapses where he just disappears. And that this is not the first time that these kind of rumors emerged from him routinely disappearing. Another form of fake news is altered photos that a lot of people are angry about, but those photos are also staged with particular lenses and photo tricks to look more crowded than they actually are. The experts that the mainstream media wants you to trust, like Professor Neil Ferguson, that was raising the alarm bells, calling and approving for the Chinese mandatory style quarantines. His policies, his voice, his actions have actually led to a lot of the draconian measures that the world is dealing with now, where we're also finding out that this, quote, expert professor was diagnosed to have COVID-19. Meanwhile, he was organizing booty calls with a married wife that was going back to her husband and children. And for the sake of this man just getting some booty, he endangered everyone, which is extremely comical, if not tragic at the same time. Of course, he resigned in disgrace, which he should, as of course many of these experts and politicians are saying, do as we say, not as we do. Many politicians like the New York City Mayor de Blasio, the Chicago Mayor, the Prime Minister, governors, the former president, all have been violating rules that they've been either encouraging or putting into place themselves. And if it's not government officials, it's billionaires that they tell you you should trust. You know, the specific ones hanging out with known child abusers and eugenicists that have the same common interest of population control. Yeah, all of those guys, well, they're going to be forced in your timeline. You're going to be sure to see their videos after this video, as of course YouTube is running a deliberate program to run us out of business. This is why they recently demonetized us. But hey, this is why we set up a t-shirt store. And if you, as an individual, have secured your food and water supply and you have a little bit of money on to splurge, definitely check out the t-shirt store so you could express yourself in a way that is still legal, since of course basic freedoms are just being eviscerated right in front of us as the mainstream media is cheering it on. We also have this t-shirt that's a new edition. Definitely would recommend checking that one out. But yet again, only if you have your food and water supply secured. Then, yeah, check out the short store. Other than that, make sure you take care of that. And continuing on, one of the biggest other bombshell reports we're getting is that in Tanzania, allegedly, the president of that country was skeptical of the tests that he was provided for the sickness, so he decided to test inanimate object and farm animals to see if the test would come back positive for the sickness that the world is dealing with. And according to some media reports, this was a test to investigate if there was sabotage of the, quote, national laboratory, which the president casted doubt on of their credibility. And according to this media report, the secret testing that this president had done have come back positive for the sickness that allegedly was tested on papayas, quails, and a goat. Yes, according to this report, a papaya, a quail, and a goat tested positive for this sickness. This, of course, brings up many important implications that do deserve to be investigated further and looked into, since of course there's two big scenarios here that could be potentially unfolding here. One, these tests could be designed to give false positives, or according to some conspiracy theories out there, the tests could be infected themselves. Others are talking about the possibility of these tests being faulty, which has been reported in other countries around the world. But regardless of what the scenario here is, it's definitely shady to have these kind of news articles and information coming forward. Does this mean that all of this is a hoax? All of this is a scam? Well, again, we don't particularly know. We definitely know something is happening, especially with the excess number of deaths that have been happening all throughout this country and other countries around the world. And when you attribute the lockdown, less people traveling, less people working, less people driving, there is definitely something to consider when looking at this data. Majority of countries, of course, that don't wear masks, compared to, of course, countries where people do wear masks, and of course, the average death toll numbers are not as severe as they are in other places. Austria also has very significantly lower numbers than a lot of other countries, and it's also been one of the countries that has prioritized and made it an issue to have people wear masks. And again, if you look at the data and you compare countries where culturally it is acceptable to wear masks and other countries where it's not, the data is very significant. And again, it's important to remind people that a lot of this could have been prevented. A lot of countries didn't shut down and lock down, especially the countries that did wear masks. That was one factor out of some other factors that, of course, contributed to the situation. Vietnam is another great example of handling this crisis a lot better than other countries. Also, a country where a lot of people wear masks. Do you see where I'm getting at here? Even before this entire madness and sickness, Hong Kong was able to almost entirely wipe out influenzas in their territory because of simply wearing masks, which also hides your identity, has been used by many Hong Kong protesters when I was on the ground reporting on them. And to me, masks are something that should be widely talked about and incentivized. Definitely don't want the government handling any new rules or regulations surrounding that, since of course they'll usually get it wrong and use it as a way to hurt more people. Meanwhile, the countries that don't wear masks are still going through extraordinary situations. The New York City subway system shut down for the first time in 115 years. Again, this is a subway system that ran 24 hours, 7 days a week, that shut down in order to clean the premises where many people say the sickness was spreading the most, the New York City public transportation system. Well, at least finally the subways are going to be cleaned. But beyond the sickness and the preventative measures, one of the most damaging impacts from all of this, as I've been saying from the very beginning, will be the economic impacts. And we're seeing the severity of that as, of course, lines for soup kitchens go on for blocks in New York City. Again, one of the quote, richest city areas in the world, and we're having lines, literally, I mean, this video goes on for a minute, it's fast-forwarded, and the person doesn't even finish going to the back at the end of the line, and he's already going about 3 blocks of people waiting for just a little bit of food to help them during these difficult times. But don't worry, law enforcement is here to protect and serve. Oh, no. Yeah, they're definitely, oh my goodness. You know, nothing says government like enforcing a quarantine, enforcing social distancing by breaking the quarantine and breaking social distancing. And just like I teased in the beginning of this video with this stormtrooper, a lady that was in front of a business, clearly in a costume, clearly with a fake toy gun that was promoting business, well, she was actually, I would even say, terrorized by local law enforcement that literally put guns in her face and detained her, as of course this poor woman that was promoting this business was forced to go on the ground, was left crying and traumatized after, of course, almost getting killed for the horrible crime of walking around in a costume. Meanwhile, other businesses, like a Dallas salon owner that, again, I have to point out here, went above and beyond safety rules and regulations, not only with proper PPE for herself, for her staff, but also following procedures that were overboard of the standard when it comes to safety procedures with this sickness, having her clients stay in cars, being specifically called in one by one, remaining proper social distancing. I mean, this lady went above and beyond, and government agents put her in jail. She went to court and was told to apologize for her, quote, alleged selfish actions. And this woman, rightfully so, said, hell no. Answered back and said, feeding my kids isn't selfish, and now has been sentenced to 7 days. 7 days in jail for doing the right thing. And when I say that, when you compare what she did, when you compare what Amazon is doing, when you compare what Walmart is doing to their employees, to their factory workers, to people who are complaining about safety conditions that are just being fired and thrown out into the streets like Amazon employees are right now, when you compare those two businesses, one allowed to run, to ship out adult toys everywhere, non-essential items, risking the lives of many individuals, not following basic safety procedures, to a woman that actually is doing that, why is one person in jail and the other not? This has to be a serious question in our society right now, as it is spiraling out of control. And this woman should not be in jail. And for the judge, plutocratic, fat cat bozo, to tell her apologize or go to jail is absolutely ridiculous. Again, the judge gave her a choice. Apologize, shut down, or go to jail. She chose jail, and she is definitely making a stand against a lot of the bigger injustices happening right now. Again, I'm still saying, and government will only get more stupid, more ridiculous the longer we allow it to. That's my take on it. I'm still saying treat this situation seriously, especially for your loved ones, your family members, the people in your community, in your neighborhood. Be as respectful as you can to them. Be as courteous as you can to them. This is a time where we need each other more than ever. Respecting their wishes, respecting their space, having proper safety protocols, and courtesy to them is not going to hurt anyone. It's only going to protect all of us. Yesterday's video is a very important one about the larger divide and conquer agenda, how essentially there's been a lot of propaganda, so you hate the blue-collar worker, so you hate a person in the lower or middle class. There's been a lot of hate directed towards protesters, a lot of hate directed towards nurses. Meanwhile, this is all engineered. I talked about it in yesterday's video. You really need to watch that one to get fuller context to what I was just talking about. Stay tuned for more. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you think I got anything wrong, I always appreciate the constructive criticism, and I always appreciate the ability to have an honest conversation that is not censored. We don't delete any comments, because the only way to learn and to propel yourself forward is by having an honest and real conversation. If you agree with that, share this video with your friends and family members, because YouTube definitely won't. They'll promote the mainstream media. They won't promote this video. That's why we need you more than ever, and this is why you're here. This is why I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.